What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about effective communication and making assumptions and how critical that is to the success of your business. Not just from a business standpoint, but from a personal standpoint too. So once again, we got our man Owais Qureshi in the house from the Visual Cue. What's going on, my dude?
What's up, Henry? How are you, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. Coming off a great weekend, and really, when we were talking about this over the weekend, I could feel the excitement coming through the text messages on this topic.
Oh yeah.
And one of the questions that you asked was, what's making assumptions costing you and your business every single day?
Mhm.
And so you have an angle that you're going to attack. I have an angle that I'm going to attack today to help all of you become more effective communicators and eliminate the amount of assumption making you make on a daily basis to help you become stronger leaders, stronger business people, stronger parents, stronger husbands and wives, and so on and so forth. So, let's kick it off by talking about the angle that you wanted to address today when it comes to making assumptions.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. And as a matter of fact, I had a follow-up question to that. You mind if I share that one?
Shoot.
What are you assuming? What assumptions are you making in your business that it's making an ass out of your business?
Of course.
Right.
Of course. Right. I mean, the audience sees it, but because when we're in it, it's like we're blinded, right?
Exactly.
So
that's it.
This video is going to be helpful because it's going to shine light on some of the corners that might be dark in your business right now.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it was like about a week and a half ago. I was invited to listen to a business pitch that's, as a matter of fact, been in development for the past year.
Okay.
And they've already invested a significant amount of time and money, and then also, they've got people developing the product itself. And I was sitting there and I'm listening to all of this. I'm like, yeah, great idea, great idea. And of course, being I've got to be the skeptic in the room. I was like, look, if you're going to bring me to advise and provide the outside perspective, I'm going to first lean in with skepticism, because that doesn't hurt anyone. Let's point out the gaps, right? I want someone else to come in and point out the gaps in my process so I can make improvements.
Right? Sure.
So I asked, I was like, well, what gaps did you identify in the marketplace for you to say that what you have been working on in the last year is the right fit? Who mapped out this entire product? You're showing me this entire cool looking visual map. Who mapped this out for you?
Yeah.
And they said, well, we did. We did it all internally.
Oh boy.
How many prospective customers that you think that you wanted, right? Did you figure out what those prospective customers look like? Did you actually go and talk to them? Not really. We were just going off of it from our own perspective, based off of what we think is happening, right? There's your assumption.
Yep.
So then I ask, well, you've spent all of this time in the last year. Let's say I didn't come here and ask you these questions. Let's say I didn't come in and ask you these questions, and you continued on over the course of the next year. What would that have costed your business?
Just think about the time, right?
Absolutely.
Think about the time.
Time is one thing. They've already invested enough money on this.
Right.
Now they're going to go and continue to invest more money over the course of the next year to either continue to develop, try to market it, and then at that point in time, maybe they'll get a little bit of a momentum there. But what happens after that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's now it's going to cause them even more to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, well, let's try to fix it here. Let's try to fix it here. And what's going to happen? You're basically going to what I call a Frankenfit in the marketplace.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
So
yeah.
That's why I was like, I got to text Henry about this, because this is like, and this is not just a one-time thing. Someone else came to me with this exact same sort of a situation. Yeah. I want to build an app. I only want to spend $5,000. And and then I asked him, I was like, look, you're a successful business owner. How much would you say your net worth is tied to this particular business? He said close to about 85%. I was like, so you're willing to bet your 85% of your net worth on a $5,000 product based all on assumptions that people will actually adopt this?
That's scary. Yeah, it's scary. And listen, I'd be lying to you right now if I told you that in the 15 years I've been in business, I've never made the same mistake. There were funnels that I built that should have never been built because they had zero legs to stand on. Yeah. But I built them anyway. And here's the positive out of that. The positive is I got some chops in the funnel building world. Okay. I got to learn what worked and what didn't work. Right. Problem was it cost me a shit ton of time, money, and energy. And as we get older, that becomes more and more expensive. Okay. Or more valuable. Right. So we've done it. So we're not here pointing fingers. Oh, you're a bad business owner for doing this kind of thing. No, this is a learning experience for all of us. If we don't make these mistakes, right? If we don't, we're not going to learn. So we have to make these mistakes in order to learn. So
and we all need someone to come in and again, lend that outside perspective and perhaps intervene when, like, especially at the most critical time.
Yes. Right. Well, here's the big question, right? Like, it's not really a question. It's more of a statement. One is we have to get very clear on what it is that our audience wants from us. Okay. Wants from us individually, specifically, because we could put out the best of the best, but if it's not what they want from us, we're always going to struggle in converting that sale, right? Quick example, YouTube channel. They're a big home improvement YouTube channel. They come out with some random video about cooking. The video flops considerably. Why? Because the majority of the channel is based on home improvement information. What the hell does cooking have to do with that? Nothing. So they completely flopped. They completely missed the mark there, right? Luckily, they could make that pivot quickly and get back into more home improvement videos and kick up the viewership and popularity of that channel. Now, it's a little harder when it comes to creating and structuring offers because there's a bunch of back-end stuff that you got to do and prepare in order to make that launch successful. So if you don't get that right, it's like trying to turn the Titanic and get it to move in a different direction, right? So this is why we're coming out with this video today, because we want you to understand the philosophy of measuring twice, cutting once is something that I really want you guys to take away with today. Because we'll get to the solution in a second. When you do this thing that we're about to tell you to do, it's going to help you tremendously stop assuming and start working with intention. And when you start to work with intention, it's like a new lease on life, a
I
new
love
lease
that.
on business.
I absolutely love the fact that you said start working with intention.
Hmm?
Right?
Everything is calculated.
Well, yeah.
Everything means something. That's a strong brand right there. Some may look
Absolutely.
at that as a negative.
It's a purpose-driven brand.
Right. Some may look at that as a negative. You're calculated. You wouldn't do that you wouldn't do that out of the kindness of your heart. You know, there's always a tie to something. You know, there's always a catch, something along those lines. I wouldn't necessarily go that far and say that there's always an angle, there's always a catch. If the intentions are meant for good, then who cares? I think that's actually smart business versus amateur business versus reckless business, right? So we got to make sure that we are hitting the targets, hitting the marks that we set out for ourselves. That's going to create a very strong brand message and deliverable when it comes to creating the right offers.
Agreed.
Okay. I want to change gears for a sec. And I want you guys to think about the other side of the other negative, the other problem of making assumptions. And that problem is paralysis. Okay. Raise your hand or put it in the comments. Have you ever done nothing because you came up with a story in your head that you believed was true? Come to find out later on that it was all made up. You literally fabricated that entire story in your head and missed a big opportunity.
Yeah. Right here. Patient zero sitting right in front of you.
Huge. I mean, I've done it too.
Yeah.
You know, we get these assumptions in our head like, oh, that must be true because of X, Y, Z. How many times have you said that to yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Or they don't want to do this because why would they?
Yeah.
They don't.
You're constantly, you're telling yourself the story. You're telling yourself a story that has absolutely no relevance in the real world.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't exist.
Yes.
Right.
So let me give you a scenario real quick, right? Let me give you a scenario. Working with a client. He has a fairly large team. Got a team member who's afraid to fail. And what's happening is certain things aren't getting done properly. Things, you know, balls are being dropped, so on and so forth, because of that fear of failure. Listen, we've all been there. I was working at a hospital where they were actually entrapping me and setting me up to fail. And when I would fail, they would send me to the waiting room and make me clean the coffee pots. I shit you not.
Man.
This is what used to happen. Right. So that was like me doing, what do you call it? Like paying your dues. That's what they did to me for months. So I get the feeling. I know what it feels like. Right. Okay. So team member is afraid to fail, keeps tripping over himself. He's scared. That's what it comes down to. He's scared to fail. So now, leader of the team has a few options. He could ignore it, or he could assume that this person has XYZ going on, and that's why they keep dropping the ball. Or they could take this approach instead. And this is where I want you guys to kind of turn up the volume and lean into what I'm about to tell you. And that is to ask deeper questions. Okay. So let's say, and this has happened in the past in my world as well. I had a designer who kept just not coming back with the quality of work that I was looking for. And I think he was falling into the same thought process or same fear of failure as this particular team member was. And I asked him, I said, how can I help you eliminate that fear? That was the question that I asked him.
Wow.
How can I help you eliminate that fear?
Powerful question.
And they said, if you were clearer on your expectation up front, I would have designed this a completely different way. So what did I do? I immediately started putting more effort into how I communicated the expectations of that particular design. And what happened? The results were astounding. They were coming back with dead ringers. Or if it wasn't a dead ringer, maybe one or two tweaks, and they were on
They were on it.
Yeah, they were menial. And next thing you know, we got the job done way faster. So the point is, like, okay, so say you're not in that situation, say you're in a different situation. You got team member who's afraid to fail. They vocalized that to you. They said, listen, I'm sorry I dropped the ball. I'll be honest with you. I'm just, I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to let you down. So you asked the question, how can I help you eliminate that fear? Now, that response that they give you is loaded with information.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing that you got to consider and understand and remember. What they're about to tell you, you don't have to do any of it if you don't want to. You don't. You really don't. You have to weigh those options and determine whether or not you think that you're responsible for doing those things. Or you could look at it and say, wow, what a piece of insight.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I was doing that. I had no idea that that action was creating that outcome and that level of fear inside of that person. And now you have a decision to make. Do I help or do I ignore?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you this, man. Sometimes when you ask someone directly, what is it that they fear or what are they fearing about this? Sometimes what happens, Henry, is the mind overloads and becomes a bit more guarded. And then they want to resist and they say, what makes you think that I fear anything? Or I don't fear anything. What are you talking about? Right? There's going to be some personalities like that.
Yeah.
Instead, what's holding you back?
That's a great approach too. And I think the way that I would have, the way this all unfolds is incident goes down, leader shows up to the job and says, how did this happen? And then then the response. And 9 times out of 10, while they're responding, the truth comes out.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid to let you down. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to send you something because, you're particular. And, I used to get this all day long from my design team. And then I remember very vividly having a really rough day. And I was very edgy and very short fused and tempered. And my wife was like, the hell's the matter with you? And I was explaining to her, like, I tell these guys 1,000 times, do this, do that, and they don't listen, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, man.
And she said, did you ever sit down individually with them and ask them why they keep repeating the same behavior?
Yeah.
And I said, no. She said, well, why don't you try that and see if the problem goes away? And I was like, palm to forehead.
Genius.
Right? Palm to forehead. That's that outside perspective, right? That saves you thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I did. And boom, it was like overnight, the problem went away. And so that's really the big takeaway of this video, is to dig deep to the people that you think are worth it and to ask those deeper questions.
Yeah.
And to figure it out, because you may think one thing and it is so different. And now you're like, oh my God, I can't even believe that I thought that. That is so uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And they might not even think that there's an issue there until you bring it up. Right. That's another piece of it.
Right.
I tell a lot of people, is like, look, when you're going out there and thinking about or making assumptions, right? You're thinking that something is present, whereas someone else might just be they're going about their own day.
Yep. So the bottom line here, guys, is we have to create conversation. And the ones that are willing to take the effort to do that are the ones that win.
Yes.
So when it comes to what Oasis was talking about earlier, when it comes to crafting the right message and the right offer, are you sitting down with potential clients or people that would be prospects or potentials and getting their opinion? You know, focus groups have been around for 1,000 years. You don't even need to create a focus group anymore. You go to any Facebook group and there's your focus group.
There it is. Yeah.
You go to any, in-person conference and ask a question, right? And you get a whole bunch of reaction. Oh, there's your focus group.
That's it. Yeah.
Right? You hit a nerve, right? So if you're not creating those conversations, never going to get down to the bottom of it. You're never going to get to the core. You're never going to get to the truth.
Exactly. And what all this translates to, as usual, when you're asking the questions, you're creating conversations. And I talk about a lot about this. Is like, look, start switching your thinking. So I call it question thinking.
Okay.
So instead of making decorative statements on a daily basis, see how that exact same statement can now be phrased as a form of a question. So I'll give you an example. I was like, look, that's a nice car. What makes that car so nice? Which one of those two is going to actually create a conversation?
Obviously the second one.
The second one, right? And you're just continuing to get deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yep.
And that's what translates to building rapport with anyone. It doesn't matter whether it's your customers, whether it's someone that's a significant other, whether it's a friend, whoever it is. That's what's going to create that rapport, that trust, that credibility.
That's it.
Stuff that we talk about here.
You can't go wrong with questions. I think the worst question you could ask is the one that never comes out of your mouth.
Oh man, I love that.
Right? That's it right there.
Yeah.
Right? So focus on that. And then on the flip side, when an assumption pops into your head about someone or something, the first question you got to ask yourself, is that true? Is that true? Is that fact? And if the answer is no, well, then you have homework to do.
Yeah.
Right? I was on a coaching call with a client earlier, and one of the things that he suffers from a lot is doubt. He said, doubt creeps in, and that's it. I paralyze myself from moving forward with that intention. And I said, where does that doubt come from? And he said, self-confident, self-esteem, lack of. Well, how long have you been in business, pal? 15 years. How long's the average new business last? What is it, 2-3 years?
No, some of them don't even get past 1 year.
Right. So it's like looking at what we have versus what we don't and getting over that doubt, right?
Yeah.
And I just coached him through that. I said, and he answered the questions for me. I didn't, I didn't tell him the answer. I let him do that work. Next thing you know, he's not doubting himself anymore, and he's closing $20,000, $30,000 projects.
There you go.
So like, that's what I'm talking about, guys. Like, that's effective communication. That's really making the other person your best interest versus it being all about you.
Yeah. And another one, as far as like combating assumptions, is when that answer comes to mind, am I telling me or are they telling me?
Bingo.
Another
bingo.
Right?
Bingo.
You've now asked yourself a conversation, like you've now set a conversation in place for yourself to evaluate whether the answers that you have in mind, in your own mind, are the ones that you've developed yourself or are the ones that are coming in from outside,
Right.
where they should be.
And then everything makes more sense when you're putting together your offers.
Correct.
When you're putting together your messaging and your funnels and your website and all of that. We're coming out with a new program soon called the EYS group. And we've done a ton of research to get this funnel to where it's at today. We took the best of the best of the best, spent hours researching.
Wow.
And put together one awesome funnel that's going to really make an impact and drive that conversion, because it's everything that our particular client is saying in their heads and wanting as a result. And everything is clear as day because we took the time to do the research and to understand A, who we want in this group, and B, what they're looking for as a result. Like these groups these group coaching programs, I see a lot of holes in them. Why?
Yeah.
A, person doesn't have the true experience. B, they don't know who they want in the group specifically. C, there's no real results that come out because they're not clear on A, right? They're not clear on the person that so how can they deliver the results if they don't know who the right person is for that group?
That's right.
So it's all intertwined. So we've mapped that all out. And I can tell you by the end of this month, what is it, July? By the end of this month, we'll be live and we will have more information on the group. So if you're interested in this group, and EYS stands for Elevate Your Status, because that's what this group is going to do for you in your niche. Because I know there's a lot of you out there that have the expertise, but are getting drowned out with all the noise that's out there. So we're going to bring you up front and center so that so now you're the obvious choice. Now you're the one being heard and you're the one being positioned properly, because that's the biggest part about it. So anyway, not to go off a tangent, you'll get more information on that. If you're looking for more information on that, shoot me a message or drop me a comment in here and I'll get you some more information on the project as we move on. But any parting words, my friend, before we wrap up? I think we nailed it from both angles and really delivered today. So anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, that's it, man. I mean, again, just make sure that anything that you're going out there to do, ask. Be prepared to ask others rather than going in there and assuming that they're going to adopt it, that they're going to accept it.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of the conversation. Create the conversation. Don't be afraid of it. And you will be shocked on what that does for your brand, your position, and your communication level. So have an amazing day, guys. We'll catch you on Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you liked this, drop some comments below. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Have an amazing day. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
That's